How do we fix Social Security? It is a complicated problem, and there's no perfect solution. What are the possible solutions? I've got that and more coming up. My name is Mike Bernard. I'm the host of the Wise Money Show. I'm also one of the certified financial planners right here at Corhorn Financial Group. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and smash that thumbs up button. Social Security is broken. We know that. We've known that for a while, and we've tried to throw some fixes in there. There was this talk about privatizing it and investing it and all sort of stuff. And how do we fix it? How do we fix it? This is such an important part of your retirement, of the average American's retirement. Making the right decision with Social Security is one of the most important financial decisions of your life, and yet the system's broken and it's on track to crash. So what's that mean, and what are the potential solutions? First, what's the problem? The problem is the ratio between the number of workers and the number of receivers. That is the ratio between the number of people paying into the system and the number of people drawing money out of the system. Take a look at this chart, this historical chart of the number of people that, basically this ratio, the number of people that are paying in versus receiving. Now, back in the 40s when the system was originally launched, oh my goodness, a lot more workers compared to receivers. And then you can see that the system, that it very quickly drops, but it's still sustainable, right? We've got 8 workers for every receiver, then we've got 5 workers to every person drawing, and then we've got 3. Guys, right now we are at 2.8. So basically this is sort of like sponsoring. You've got, for every 2 workers basically are sponsoring an older individual that's drawing Social Security. We've joked before on the Wise Money Show that, it's such a small ratio right now that you could have like the picture, an elderly retired individual as a picture up on your refrigerator saying, yep, that's the person I'm supporting. That's, and 2 of you, there's basically 2 or 3 workers for every 1 person drawing. And guys, over the next few years, that 2.8 is expected to drop to 2.1 to 2 and even below 2 into 2030. That's the problem. This is a demographic problem. Back when Social Security started, we had a lot of workers and very few people drawing. And guess what? The odds were with us because the labor force was so high and life expectancy wasn't very long, okay? But that has shifted to the exact opposite. The labor force has absolutely plummeted, certainly even worse thanks to COVID, and people are living longer. Well, that's wonderful. What that means is we've got a small number of workers compared to a growing number of people drawing out. And when you combine that with the birth rate dropping as well, the population growth potentially shrinking, that exacerbates the problem. So we have a demographic problem in the ratio between the number of workers paying into the system and the number of retired folks drawing or collecting Social Security benefits. So that's the problem. What happens? What the train tracks we're on right now? If that problem is not fixed, we go headlong into Social Security being insolvent. Now that creates a lot of myths. Does that mean my Social Security payments would stop or it would go bankrupt? No. Social Security says right now there are enough funds, let's call those receipts, or IOUs in the Social Security Trust Fund to pay out normal benefits until 2037, roughly 15 years, okay? And at that point, the funding level would drop to, or your Social Security would drop to the current tax and funding level, which is around 76%. So if we do nothing and demographics don't change, then anyone drawing Social Security starting in 2037 or maybe 2038, their payment would drop by 24%. They would see a 24% reduction down to whatever the payout rate is at, or that paying into the paying rate is at that time, which right now they're saying is around 76%. So that's what insolvency means. It wouldn't go bankrupt. You wouldn't lose all your Social Security, but that is still an enormous problem that needs to be fixed. So how do you fix it? Guys, there's no silver bullet. There is no perfect solution to this complex real life problem. They're basically 4 solutions the way I see it. And I'm going to omit privatizing Social Security, even though I certainly believe in the long-term benefit of investing, right? Obviously, I'm a huge believer in that. So Social Security system, I'm not even going to go there as to whether that should be invested. I'm going to talk about the 4 more traditional ways to solve the problem. They're not fun. These are not fun solutions, and they obviously each have their own drawbacks, but let's get into it. The first, and you can see it in that article that I showed earlier about the insolvency issue, is you can directly raise taxes. That is one of the solutions, directly raising taxes. In fact, the math suggests that right now, every worker is having 12.4% of their wages going directly into the Social Security system. Out of FICA, 6.2% of your FICA goes into Social Security, and your employer matches that as well. So 6.2, 12.4% is going into paying Social Security. They could raise that tax. They could directly do that. This article says the math has been done. They could raise that 12.4% to 14.4%, and that would make Social Security last for 75 years instead of 15. So they could directly raise taxes. Another way of directly raising taxes is right now, you only pay into the Social Security system on the first $142,800 that you make. That's your Social Security wage base. They could increase that. They could blow the doors off of it and have no cap at all. Or the Biden administration is proposing keeping that cap there, and then once your income goes above $1 million, have you start paying into Social Security again. They've also talked about once your income goes above $400,000, have you start paying into Social Security again. So they could directly raise taxes by just increasing the tax rate for Social Security from 12.4 to 14.4, or they could also increase the amount of income that you pay the Social Security tax on, directly raising taxes. Then, and I think this one's more likely because, guys, it happens all the stinking time, they can indirectly raise taxes. So they can create a tax increase without you knowing there's really a tax increase. Well, what do I mean by that? Right now, we've done videos on, is Social Security even taxable? Well, for some people it's not, for others it is, and the maximum amount, even if you make a whole bunch of money, you'll only pay tax on 85% of your Social Security. Well, they could indirectly raise taxes by just taxing all of it, and they could have that tax go back into the Social Security system. Sounds like a Ponzi scheme, but they could just say, no, everyone has to, you're gonna have to report this as income, and if you pay tax on it, you pay tax on it, that's it. And they could have that tax going into Social Security system. So that's one indirect tax. They could create a new tax like they did with the additional Medicare tax. So they could say, listen, if your income is above a certain threshold or whatever, then you're actually going to have to pay a separate new sort of tax for Social Security system, like they've done the 3.8% additional Medicare tax that they instituted, about 10 years ago or so. So that's an indirect way of increasing taxes. Another indirect way they could increase taxes is to have people start paying taxes, Social Security taxes on other income. So like dividends, right? Or pass-through income. So if you have a rental property, the pass-through income that you get from that rental property, you don't pay FICA tax on. Well, they could start having you pay. That's raising taxes. It's indirect. It's not directly increasing our current Social Security taxes, but it's an indirect way. They could do the same thing for LLCs, for S corps. They could do it for large corporations as well, having large corporations pay into Social Security on retained earnings or on dividend payout, something like that. So there are direct ways they can increase taxes and indirect ways. Those are 2 of the potential solutions to Social Security, raising taxes directly or indirectly on us citizens going into the system. And then third, they could cut benefits. They could cut benefits directly. This article says that right now, if there's a 13% reduction in everyone's Social Security would last 75 years as opposed to just lasting another 15 years. That is painful. To have everyone, especially right now when we're seeing inflation, have everyone get an immediate haircut and pay less, get less from their Social Security. So a direct benefit cut is the third option, and the fourth option is in indirect benefit cut. Well, what does that mean? Well, they could indirectly cut benefits. Right now, Social Security does combat inflation. Now, there's big questions over whether that is whether there's any manipulation in this or even a conflict of interest because of how they get the number. But yes, there is a cost of living adjustment tied to the CPI every single year. It's been minuscule for a long time, and that has many people wondering whether this is an honest and transparent ethical system, but they could do away with that completely, and that's a way of cutting benefits. Well, once you lock in, once you start drawing Social Security, that's the exact amount you'll receive for the rest of your life. There's no inflation adjustment. They could do that. Another indirect way they could cut your benefits is they could push the age back. Right now, your full retirement age for most of us is 67, and the latest you could begin drawing is 70. Well, they could push that back. They could move your full retirement age to age 70. They could continue to let your benefits accrue until 75, and then you have to draw. So that'd be a way of cutting benefits because you're delaying when you could actually start. There's other ways of indirectly cutting benefits as well, but that's the fourth option. So guys, that's it. I told you these are not fun solutions here. You can raise taxes or you can cut benefits. You can do it directly, you can do it indirectly, you can do a combination of them. That's what they're talking about right now. The problem is the longer they wait to come up with a solution, the worse the pain is going to be when we make the adjustment. The worse the correction's going to need to be. This is a problem, and unfortunately, because of the way Congress acts, likely we're not going to get a solution until there's a crisis. So there are some politicians that are making proposals and pushing bills forward, trying to do some sort of combination, indirect taxes, some tax increase, some benefit cuts, some changes, but that's it. You have a bright idea, you have a big idea onto, hey, why don't they consider this? Why don't they make this change? Whatever, leave it in the comments below. I want to hear it. I mean, right now, this is a very, very complicated problem with very, difficult solutions, okay? Difficult solutions that would have a real impact on you, me, and your retirement. And so share them below. Unfortunately, I think it's raise taxes, cut benefits. You can do it directly, you can do it indirectly, but if you have different ideas, share them below. Like I said, how you draw Social Security, when you draw Social Security, that's one of the biggest financial decisions you're going to make in your life. Make sure you do that. Make sure you make that decision in the context of your entire financial plan working with the CFP. If you don't have a CFP helping you with that, you can contact one on my team. Find us online, Korhorn.com. That's Korhorn with K, wisemoneyshow.com. You can find us there as well, or give us a call, 574-247-5898. All right, there you have it. Go out and take your next wise step in your financial life.